The worst part of a colonoscopy isn't actually the colonoscopy itself, it's the prep. I've had 6 of these done, and I have to do them every single year because I have a high chance of developing multiple different types of cancers in my life. At this point, I know the process pretty well, so I want to walk through what to expect and go over a couple things that help make it a little bit easier for me doing these every single year. And for me, this is just part of my annual surveillance that I have to do because I have a genetic mutation called Lynch syndrome, which increases my lifetime risk of developing multiple different types of cancers. What is a colonoscopy? A colonoscopy is basically where a doctor takes a camera and goes inside your colon to see if there's anything unusual going on. And I'll be honest, even with me doing this 6 times and a 7th coming up, I dread having a colonoscopy every single year. And that's because of that prep. Let's talk about the prep. The biggest tip I can give you with the prep is to schedule the appointment as soon as you can in the morning. Be the first appointment if you're able to. You're already going to be hungry because you're not going to be able to have eaten the day before the colonoscopy itself. You're probably going to be a little cranky. You're going to be anxious about the procedure as well. So getting it done early helps to make that part faster and just get it over with. So now for the prep, I've done them about 3 different ways. First one I've done is a powdered laxative with a sports drink. And you're drinking down quite a bit of fluid with that. That one isn't my favorite because there's a lot of liquid that you have to drink and it can make me feel bloated and nauseous. I've also done a prep where it's a liquid laxative, about 2 6-ounce bottles that you're consuming. You mix that with water. The taste on that again is not very good. I struggle with that one a lot. The one I recently have done was the tablets. You have 12 tablets that you take the night before. And then you wake up again in the morning so many hours in advance, and you take the second dose of tablets, which is another 12 before the procedure itself. Now, I know thinking about taking 12 pills and then waking up a few hours later and taking 12 more pills probably doesn't sound very fun, but to me, those powdered laxatives and that liquid laxative, the taste makes me gag, it makes me anxious, it makes me nauseous. And it's just not a fun time. Unfortunately, with those tablets that I took, it did not clear out my colon well enough last time. So now I'm back to the liquid form laxative that I have to do this time around. And like I said, I'm not happy with that, but we'll get through it. So with the prep, you're going to be spending quite a bit of time in the bathroom. So tip number 1 on this is make sure you have wet wipes. They are going to save your back end. And my second tip is to have something to do in there. If that's playing on your phone, you're counting tiles, you're looking at a magazine, just something to keep your mind off of it because you're going to be sitting in there for quite a while. And if you do have your phone with you, make sure you charge it in between. Now, when you're not in the bathroom and you're taking that prep down, either the liquid laxative or the powdered laxative, another tip is to have a secondary drink available that you like. Because what I do is I will take a sip of the laxative itself and then take a sip of the other drink that isn't that laxative to kind of cleanse my mouth, cleanse that palate. I've also heard that you can use a straw and kind of put it as far back as you can. Drink it down that way. That way that laxative is not sitting on your tongue as long. I have a bad gag reflex, so I can't really do the straw method, but I have read online and people have said that it works best. The other thing I can give you for a tip is make sure that prep, if you're drinking it down, is cold. That will help kind of minimize that taste as much as possible. So keep that laxative in the fridge. That way, when you go back and refill your glass that you're drinking from, it'll be cold and that'll help kind of minimize any taste as well. It's not going to be a lot, but it's going to be better than nothing. And if you're doing this for the first time, just know that it's one hard night for long-term health. It's not fun, but it's temporary. And that helps a lot for me mentally, knowing that I just continually think to myself, okay, 24 hours from now, this is all going to be over with. And I don't have to do this again for a year. So you made it through the prep and you're on to procedure day. All I can say is congratulations. You made it through the hardest part of the entire procedure itself. If you can get through that prep part, I always feel on the day of the procedure a sense of relief when I get into the car to go to the hospital to have the colonoscopy because I know that the prep is done. And that is the hardest part. Now, just a quick note, I'm sure your doctor has told you this, but you can't drive after the procedure. They're going to sedate you with general anesthesia. Have a family or a friend bring you to the appointment. You show up, you check in, they're going to bring you back to a pre op room where they're going to get you ready for the procedure itself. You're going to meet a nurse that's going to prep you for the procedure. They're probably going to put an IV in you somewhere to give you that general anesthesia. You might meet the anesthesiologist along with the doctor who's going to do the procedure. So if you have any questions at that time, ask them. They may have heard the same question 1,000 times, but you want it answered. Don't be afraid to ask them the questions. Even if you think it's dumb, ask them the question. Once they wheel you back for the procedure, this part is a lot easier than you would expect because you're laying there and you probably are going to start coming backwards from 10 or whatever the anesthesiologist wants you to do. And the next thing you know, you're waking up. I mean, it almost feels like you're time warping because I remember falling asleep to the anesthesia. Then all of a sudden I'm waking up in the recovery room in what feels like 30 seconds later. And then it's over with. The procedure's done. You got through the prep, you got through the procedure, and now you're on your way to recovery. I always wake up groggy and kind of out of it at first. And so this person that is with you, who drove you, they more than likely will call back into the waiting room with you as you're kind of waking up from this sedation. Now, I've had it where the doctor comes in before I leave and goes over any results that they found, if there's anything in there that they want to talk to you about. And if you feel comfortable with the person who took you, I always let them kind of take the lead if they have any questions, especially if I'm still kind of feeling out of it. But obviously at this point as well, if you have any questions for the doctor, ask them as well. Otherwise, reach out to them after the fact once you start waking up a little bit more as well if you have any questions of what they said to you. Another tip I will give you for recovery is you're going to be hungry. Set yourself up with a good breakfast or brunch spot following the procedure. I always do this where I always pick a breakfast spot nearby because trust me, after going through that prep, you've earned it. And then I usually go home and take a nap. And that helps to kind of clear out the rest of that sedation. Now, you may also still experience some of the side effects from the laxatives for the rest of the day and maybe into the following day. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. I mean, don't be going out and doing anything crazy. In summary, the colonoscopy itself is not that bad. It's the prep. That's why I always tell everybody who's going through this, if it's the first time, the same thing. Focus on getting through that night. Focus on getting through that glass of laxative. Break it into smaller pieces because long term, it's for the better of your health. And just know that the procedure and the recovery is a lot easier. So once you get through that prep, you're on easy street. If you have any anxiety with having a colonoscopy, I hope this helped a little bit and maybe make the process feel a little less intimidating. I'm sharing this from a personal experience. This is not medical advice. Always follow the guidelines from your doctor. Ask your care team if you have any specific questions as well. My name's Matt. I'm a colon cancer survivor. I have Lynch syndrome, and I'm documenting my life as best as I can, and we'll catch you on the next one.